We have a very special treat for you this afternoon. Dr. Kyra Bobinet is going to be our closing keynote, and not only is she beautiful and intelligent and smart and on faculty here at Stanford, but she has a very deep passion in my experience of her and working with her. She's a CEO of her own company called Engaged In, and they do just amazing work in helping companies like ours and hopefully all of you, your future companies, figure out how to truly engage people in their own health, how to truly engage clinicians in providing that health. And she does it from a very holistic view, which I'm sure she's going to share with you this afternoon. So it is my deep pleasure to introduce Dr. Kyra Bobinet. Oh, by the way, she's got a new book, which she's going to tell you about as well.
Yeah. Two people clapping out. Hello, everybody. So I was thinking about this talk, and it's Sunday afternoon, late afternoon, and you guys are drinking alcohol. And I figured, before I do a talk, I always think about the state of mind of my audience and what they might be feeling. So tell me if this is you. This is what I think is going on for you. After 2.5 days of intensive being in this room, I heard it was hot yesterday in this room, so you survived that, and you survived all the judging and all those things. So to be fair and nice to you, I'm going to basically make this very short and sweet and pithy, because really I know that you're only going to remember one thing that I say, and it's going to be different for everybody. But I wanted to start out with the single question. I actually want you to answer this out loud to me right now, or if you're extroverts in the room, please answer this. Why do you think healthcare is the biggest industry in the U.S.? Just give your hypothesis. This is nobody can be wrong on this one.
We're sick consumer society.
Okay, we're sick consumer society. Who else?
Aging population.
Humans or aging population. Any other hypotheses?
We're fragmented, poorly coordinated, and we have too many stakeholders that aren't aligned.
Too many stakeholders, right, and poorly coordinated. You had one?
At the highest level, it's something that everyone needs at some point.
Everyone needs it. Yeah, right. Right. So you're all right. You're all right. And what I would say is $3 trillion is hanging on the fact that we have a combination of technology, but also it's the last bastion, or one of them, of human employment. So I read this article in Fortune. It says humans are underrated, which, if some of you have been following the news about the tech industry, you're seeing news reports of the first inflection point of technology actually eliminating more jobs than it produces because of where we're at in the advances. And so there's these little enclaves of human jobs that we still need. And according to this article, I found it really fascinating. There's 3 buckets into which we still need and want humans to always perform in this area. Number 1 is areas of accountability. And the article cites things like judges. You would never want a robot to assign you to a jail sentence, according to an algorithm. You want a human being who takes into account, at least you think is going to take into account, even though we know by data that the bias is that parole boards are much more generous in the morning and after lunch than they are right before lunch and right at the end of the day, right? So we still feel peace of mind that a human being is at the helm of that. Number 2 is collaboration across stakeholders. Talked about stakeholders over here at the judges table. Anything that is, you can't just assign a rule and dominance and say that the computer's going to decide, y'all. I mean, we want control back, because this camp isn't happy with the algorithm or how it's programmed, or this camp isn't happy. And so we're always going to have to do things that are collaborative on a human level with humans. And of course, that's a classic need in healthcare, where you've got multiple care teams, multiple people in the care team, and that's always going to be the case. The third area is where we just simply want a human being. We just want to have that human touch on something, concierge, the caring, looking into the eyeballs, even though we can still get those same emotions from an electrode implanted in your brain, and we can still get those same emotions from an anthropomorphized iPhone that rings and it stimulates the love center in our brain. We still want that human connection. And so that's why I think, at least in part, my biggest, most interesting reason why healthcare is enormous and will not shrink. So think about where you want humans and technology to go in your own life. And this is really the key to this hackathon and every other hackathon, which is, where's that line? Where are you going to mix and lean on the humans, and where are you going to mix and lean on the technology? Because we know we can't have one or the other only anymore, right? So this is a little device. You feel pretty safe giving just this over to Total Technology Job? You didn't have to have a human, right? What about this conversation? You want a human? You want a technology? Some people want technology. I ran a study one time, and it was actually people wanted less human touch for things that are shameful. They wanted to have that conversation more anonymously without the human touch. And other people wanted more of a human touch because they felt like that was too impersonal if it just stood on the Withings scale. And I say in my book that when the Withings scale first came out, I was super enthusiastic, and I started my Twitter account actually because I wanted to tweet my weight, because I read about this woman in the New York Times who did the same thing. And a couple of weeks and then a couple months went by, and every morning I would step on my scale and it would say out to the world, Kyra Bobinet weighs this much, this much. And then there was a point where the weight kind of tipped higher, and I no longer wanted to tweet my weight out. And I was like, turn it off, make it down, stop it. So I really, I experienced that firsthand, where it's like, technology cannot control this. There needs to be a human arbiter of this situation. What about this situation? You want a robot drawing your blood? Maybe they're more accurate. Or you want a human touch, right? You want to be able to say, don't do it right now. Or, okay, let me just take a breath. Just give me a second. I like to dig my nails into my other hand when the needle goes in, because it's distracting my neurons. It doesn't know where the pinch is coming from. So that's just a little trick I do. Okay, so what I thought we could focus on with the last half of this talk is the care team, the shared thread that I think you could take home with you now and enhance what you've already done in this hackathon, or this event that you've just gruelingly gotten through. And what I would say is that the one truth that I really wanted to leave with you today is that everything hinges on the self-image. So we talk about motivation, aligned incentives, all those kinds of things. But I have to say that the pivotal thing that is determining what does and does not happen is the unconscious mind and the resonance between that's me, that's not me. I'll give you an example. My mother was getting ready for our wedding. This is my husband Josh over here. And we got married in July in Hawaii. And she really wanted to lose weight to be glamorous or glorious for the wedding in Hawaii. And so she started her old diet tricks. She started a yo-yo diet, she's very good at it. It's been decades of this. And but the thing that really she could not let go of was popcorn. She had a popcorn addiction. And every night she had the habit of a huge bag of microwave popcorn, and she would just eat the whole thing while watching Home and Garden TV. And we were talking about this, and it was like such a fundamental part of her self-image that to take that away, she just didn't even feel like herself anymore. And that's really what happens, right? I mean, you guys have done this exercise. I do this all the time with audiences where you lace your fingers together. Try it now if you haven't already. And then you switch it, and then hold it in the other direction. And that's kind of your not me, So we're basically filtering every experience, everything that you are taking in and saying, okay, I'm going to keep that. In fact, whatever you do remember from what I say today is going to be because it's you. And everything you forget is going to be not you. Things that you're not ready to understand or that you completely reject. Let's take that a little farther. When it comes to people that we call patients, i.e. ourselves, our loved ones, humans, right? There's some common themes. So one is that the person has to always feel like they're better than average, which for those of you who are data geeks in the world, that doesn't make sense. Statistically, everyone cannot be above average, right? But we have to feel that way. We also have to feel smart, we have to feel able, and we have to feel in control. But think about all the different ways in which the healthcare system takes away or threatens that self-image. And so all of these, our company gets hired all the time for adherence stuff. Adherence, adherence, adherence. Just think about that word. You're adhering to what I think you should do, not who you are. It's not fitting into who you are. And I had a wonderful conversation with the Dutch guys during the break. And I really was inspired by the Netherlands approach. You said 30 years, right? Has been kind of the approach being more human-centric and not so paternalistic, and really about your personal goals. What matters to you, your daughter, the epilepsy, all those things that we really live for. And that has to be upheld. On the care team side, the primary self-image that's operating here is, am I helpful? When I first noticed this was when I was a lowly medical student at UCSF and had started on the wards. And we went from room to room to room, really trying to do our best to take care of somebody if they were usually a complex patient. We were super interested in what was going on with them, that kind of thing. But what I noticed was when somebody was dying, we skipped the room. And I didn't understand that for a long time, even though it made me feel like I was participating in some sort of crime. And it was a social norm to skip the room, so I went along with it. I couldn't not do it. I'd get in trouble. But it never felt right to me. And it was a time efficiency thing, but mostly, what was it, guys? Self-image. We didn't feel helpful, and so we didn't engage in it. Another story is my mother, who had taken care of my grandmother. So my grandmother was 92 when she passed away. For 10 years, she lived with my mother in Oklahoma. And my grandmother was a very powerful woman. She had been a professional woman who was in charge of the entire school district cafeteria food system, for all of the schools. And was just she was like 5'11", really just a really force of a woman. She was Mensa, she was crazy smart. And what happened was she started getting little TIAs, and so her intelligence and her dementia started kicking in over the years of my mom caring for her. And so my mom was freaked out by this woman who was always so grandiose and so bigger than life, suddenly being reduced and shortened. Even I think she was 5'3" or something, really crunched down, osteoporosis-wise. And at the time, I was running a startup business within a very large payer, and I was the startup CEO. And we had just done a round of marketing research on caregiving of seniors. And one of the things that I did was I actually wanted to test for the emotions that were most predominant in the group, in that setting. And one thing that came out, because I read thousands of remarks, this is a quantitative study, and people typed in their real language, because I didn't want them to just be restricted to the multiple choice exam. I wanted to know what they really felt. And so I read every single one of their remarks, and I made little chicken scratches, really manually, to what words came up over and over again. And the most predominant theme in caregivers of seniors was, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Am I doing right by the person that am I doing this correctly? And I know my mother was really suffering a lot. She felt like she was making all the wrong choices. She felt like she was stressed. There was, new Haldol, different medications she didn't understand that were, making grandma very sleepy and tired and out of it and, just not herself. And it was just coming off of this market research and just reading all these comments from all these thousands of people that and we'd had all these conversations about this before, and I said nothing that was reassuring to my mother before that. I would say, well, Mom, you're doing, the best you can, or you're doing blah, blah, blah. And she just, it didn't calm her down. It didn't ease her suffering, which is what I was trying to do. And so coming off of this market research insight, I just said, Mom, you're doing everything right. And I just heard her go, She just fell into it, and she started crying, and she's like, that's all I really want to know, is that I'm doing it right, that I'm doing right by Grandma, because I love her so much. So that was her self-image, that she was doing it right, and everything she was experiencing was violating her self-image. So here's my conclusion. Every single design that you have right now that you've already built this weekend or that you came in here with that actually works, the reason why it works is because it's working for your target audience's self-image. And it would behoove you to back engineer that. Go home whenever you get your sleep back up to normal. Go home and write down, why is this working for the self-image? And also it can actually help you diagnose any mistakes or oversights you've made to make it even better. You can say, and where am I missing a self-image that's really important to my target audience? Or where am I violating their self-image? We talk a lot in technology about things that are creepy. My definition of creepy technology is this. It's things that either overdo it on a self-image that you're not that excited about, or expose a negative self-image that you're trying to hide. I'll say that again. Creepy in technology terms is something that is overblown in something that you're not that excited about. Like, oh yay, your blood pressure was this, and you're like, I don't care. You know, that's creepy because there's a gap. If that was a human being, you would think that they had some calibration problems with their emotions and their mirror neurons were not really working to like gauge your level of enthusiasm about it. And in the other direction, if it exposes me, like the Twitter weight withing scale story, that's creepy because that was something I needed to hide at that point, and it just dragged me out into the public. So just think about that as some really good kind of weight-bearing design techniques that you want to use. And as Carissa said, I have a new book called Well-Designed Life, and we are soft launching it this week at Medicine X. All the VIPs are getting it in their swag bags and all that kind of stuff. So for those of you who are going to be there, you'll get it. And then it goes on tour. We go to Minneapolis, Harvard, various other places. But she was very gracious to allow me to do kind of a pre-sale here, because I just thought, you know, we talked about this book like a year ago, and she was a huge fan of the idea. And so I just thought I would delight her and bring it here. So it has the self-image, and it has the other things that I really care about to make you a better designer of both your own life as well as in your role for many thousands, maybe millions of people. So thank you very much. Design well.